Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Your Vibe Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Ileana. Today's episode is quite a scandalous one. I've been seeing on my TikTok For You page a ton of content around the girlies revealing how much they're making on their salary. One, I think it's super respectable and super ballsy for any girl for anyone really, to publicly disclose how much they're making. And I'm about to. But before I get into that, the reason I'm about to reveal how much I'm making is because I want to talk about something that was a super difficult part of like the last 2 years of my life and something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. I think a lot of people are always talking about how they want to make more money, which of course, like anybody does. I want to make more money. But they're always talking about like, hey, I got this new job and now I'm making more. Hey, I got this new job and now I'm making more money. And I have not really seen a lot of people talk about taking a pay cut because they're making a career transition or a career pivot. And I actually want to talk about how it's been a year since I quit my job where I was making over 200,000 a year to take a job in marketing where I now make 60K a year. It is a huge pay cut. It was a huge pay cut. It was a huge lifestyle change for me. And I want to talk about all the reasons why I decided to quit my job where I was making so much more money to take a job where I'm making less, because I just want to create a little bit more transparency around making career changes, making career pivots, and that sometimes pay cuts are a result of, are a consequence of that, as well as like talking about it, because I think talking about it and being open about it will hopefully help someone else that's maybe going through something similar and has shame around making less money, or is maybe afraid to make the decision for themselves to like switch their job or like take on a new career path or change industries because they're afraid of that pay cut and they're afraid around the societal shame around that pay cut, but also like lifestyle changes. So I want to talk about that. So hopefully this will help some of you that might be going through that or might go through this in the future. Just to kind of give a summary, 2 years ago, I was making a lot of money. I was a healthcare recruiter in the middle of the pandemic. So we were placing a crazy amount of people. I do want to say that recruiting for me was one of like my earlier jobs. I would say it was one of my first jobs that actually felt like this could be a potential career path for me. During that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really ever explore a lot of my interests. I kind of just made like a bunch of decisions. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard me say this, but I kind of was just like making decisions very reactively, and not because I knew that this was like a passion of mine or something that I saw a long-term goal in. But this job as a recruiter, this was like the first job that I felt like, okay, like this could be a potential career for me. I didn't end up loving it. Sales is just something that I don't really enjoy doing. I think that there's a lot of other paths and hobbies and interests that I have recently explored that's what drew me into this new role as a marketing specialist. And it's a very entry level role. Marketing specialist is kind of like the first job that you want to take to get into a marketing career. So this job is definitely a stepping stone for me. I'm learning so much though, and I love it. It has its challenges, of course. It has its difficulties, just like any other job, but I love it. I decided 2 years ago that I wanted to explore something that was closer to my interests, closer to my personality, what I enjoyed doing every single day. And recruiting, I had to be on the phone having tons of conversations day in and day out. And it was just really energetically draining for me. Like I was exhausted. Like the people that have worked in sales 10 plus years, I don't know how you do it. Like I was in that industry for 4 years and I was like mentally drained. So why did I quit a job that paid me 200,000 to take a marketing job that pays me 60K a year? I'm going to tell you why. Number one, I did not enjoy what I was doing every single day. Like quite literally wanted to jump off a bridge every single day. At the end of the day, I was just like ready to go. Like I had no mental capacity to do anything. I didn't have the capacity to pick up any phone calls from my friends, my family, let alone talk to my boyfriend who just wanted to chat with me and like be cute and sweet. And I just like had no bandwidth to do any of that. Like when I tell you I was exhausted, I felt like I was like the shell of a person or like the shell of who I really was. Like I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like me. I was mentally just checked out. And I was like getting bitter. I was like getting angry. And the world, and like to put it in like the simplest terms, I was becoming one of those people that I was like, woe is me. Like, pity me, pity my life. Everything sucks. Like, everything just sucked. It was so hard. I literally was like trying to meditate in the mornings. I was like going to the gym in the morning. I was like trying to eat better. Like I was trying to do any and anything under the sun just to feel like myself again. And it was not working. Like things would make it better, but nothing would really work. And it got to the point where I was like breaking down every single day. Like any little thing that would happen, I would just like crumble and just start crying. Like I would literally cry in my lunch breaks because I just like dreaded going back to my desk and like picking up the phone. I know that maybe some of you listening to this are like, oh my God, like you're so dramatic. It's not the end of the world. Like, no, I get it. Like, listen, like I come from a single parent family, okay? I was raised by my mom, a single parent mom. I'm an immigrant into this country. Like, trust me, I have perspective on it could be worse, right? Like, you're making a lot of money. I worked from home. So, like, I get it. I was in a situation where a lot of people would kill for my job, and I get that. But as much as it was a great opportunity to someone else, and it was a great opportunity for me, it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't in line with who I was, what felt like aligned with me. I don't know how else to put it. I finally made the decision. I was like, I can't do this, but now what do I do? So I thank God I have my boyfriend who's like a patient angel. And like one day I had like this massive breakdown and I remember like crying, like, what am I going to do? And he was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, you're always talking about like marketing and branding for other brands. Like you love talking to me about it. You notice it all the time in companies. Like, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Like you're right. I do pick up on things like that. And I'm always like kind of like just bringing it up in conversation with him. And I had kind of already been doing social media marketing on my own, freelance, doing social media and like TikTok and videos. And I loved like editing and I did it for myself. And he's like, why don't you try to get a marketing job? And I'm like, how am I going to get a marketing job? Like, I know nothing. Like, I was so negative because I was just like in a toxic, sad headspace. It was really bad. Whatever. Fast forward, I started learning stuff online, started like reading books and like building my knowledge base. And literally, like, I just like decided, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I even gave myself a deadline. I was like, come January, even if I don't have a job in marketing, I'm quitting. Like, I don't care. I'm quitting because I'm giving myself a deadline. And randomly, like a job opportunity presented itself to me. They're like, a company reached out and they're like, we want to interview you. And it just like aligned perfectly. And I got my first marketing job. And now I'm like a year in. A lot of things have happened. That'll be a story for another time. But anyways, I'm loving the actual job. I'm loving the experience. I'm loving everything that I'm learning. And like I'm reflecting and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was so scared to like take that pay cut because like, dude, that's like I'm like it's less than half of what I was making is what I'm making now. But I just was thinking of like the future. And I was thinking, one, like, I need to do this for not only like myself, right? Because like I need my sanity back. I want to feel like myself again. But also as a woman that like wants a family and I want kids. I was like thinking like what kind of mom am I going to be if I'm working this job that takes up the majority of my life and like it's taking all of my energy. Like, what kind of mom am I going to be at the end of the workday when I have zero energy to give my kids, zero patience, like zero compassion because I'm just so fed up with my job that I have nothing else to give when I get home at the end of the day? So I was like, just thinking of that. And that was like a major motivator for me in taking that pay cut and being 100% okay with it, because I was like, ultimately, like, this pay cut is only temporary. Maybe this pay cut is going to set me back a year or 2 years max. But at the end of the day, like, I have to think of the long-term goal. And like, why wouldn't I get back up to 200,000 a year? I can, because I was thinking of like, there's so much career growth in marketing, just like there was in recruiting. I mean, in a different way, because in recruiting it's more sales, so it's like the amount of money I make is just really related to like how much energy and effort I'm putting in. But I was like, I can do the same thing in this career path. I can get back up to 200 plus a year, maybe even more, because like now I have the capacity and the energy to put time and effort into my projects, into my family, into learning about something that fills me up and gives me purpose and like makes me feel like myself and explores other facets of myself that I didn't even know I had, to be honest. So that was a major motivator. But now that I'm like sitting back and reflecting, like this new job has, and this change of like a new career has like made me feel like myself again. I have like the energy to be creative, and like, don't get me wrong, I get into lulls, like I'm sure all of us do, but I can think. I have like time where I feel contemplative, like I get like these little bursts of energy, and like I'm silly and fun, and like I have time to give to my family, whereas before I was so overwhelmed that like I literally couldn't. So that was a major reason. And I also like adamantly believe that that wealth and abundance that I was receiving during that time will come back into my life again. As long as I stay consistent, as long as I work hard, and as long as I keep being dedicated to growing and learning and climbing up this career path. And it might not be the traditional path I once knew, but it's going to happen eventually. So let this be your sign to, if you're scared to make a change or change your career because of that pay cut, like don't be afraid. Like you have to think long term. And like there's a saying that my grandfather says, it's like tienes que ver más lejos de tu nariz, which is like you can't just look like so short term. It's basically saying like you need to have vision, like look at the future, think long term. And if this change and this like temporary pay cut is going to take you farther in the future and get you in a place where you're happier and more fulfilled long term, then you should make the change. Take the new career path, take the leap, and like do that thing that you're afraid of, because it might work out in the future. And odds are, if you're doing something that's more in line with who you are, then it's going to end up working out. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you're new here, hi, don't forget to follow at Your Vibe Tribe podcast on Instagram, on TikTok. And you can also follow me. I am on Instagram as Oh Hey Ellie. So that's OHAIELI. And I'm on TikTok as Eliana.armas. That's ELIANA.ARMAS. And if you like this episode, and make sure to share it on your stories, share it with your friends, share it with your network. It really does help us grow. And as always, if you do anything, do it with love, passion, and conviction. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.